Yes, thank you. Welcome everybody. I'd like to declare District Planning Committee meeting open and welcome you all here. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and Zoom is available. I will commence with the karakia. Whakatau mai te wairua. Whakawhatia mai te hinanaro. Whakariti mai te tanana. Kia e ai ngā mahi. Ai. All right. We have apologies from Councillor Anne Henry. Can I have a mover and a seconder that we accept that? Councillor Murray Benge, Councillor Granger. I note that Councillor Daly is attending via Zoom. So,
Is he the she?
I don't believe we have any conflicts of interest, but I have to ask that question. Are there any conflicts?
Are you putting that first motion, sir?
Did I not put it?
No.
Okay, thank you for reminding me. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. I'll repeat that earlier question. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Okay, there are no public excluded items. There is no one here for public forum. So we move to reports, and we have the one report, which is the appointment of independent hearings commissioners. So Natasha, would you like to lead us into that report, please?
Morning, councillors. Thank you very much for taking the time today to meet with us regarding this paper. Before I will hand over to Rod shortly, but I'd just like to introduce Rod. Rod Albertine has recently joined us as team leader at the planning side of the resource consent business. So, and Rod comes to us with lots of experience both at local authority level, but more recently with NZTA as principal planner there. So he brings lots of experience, and we're really pleased to have him on the team. So I'm going to hand over to Rod now to, I guess, at a high level to speak to the paper and answer any questions that you may have. And just apologies for Alison Curtis today, our General Manager for Regulatory Services, who couldn't be here. So thank you.
Morning all. Yeah, thanks very much for your time today, and very nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to engaging with you all in due course on everything resource consent related. So, yes. Just to the purpose of the paper that we're bringing today, it's simply to obtain your approval to give delegation to independent commissioners to hear a series of upcoming resource consent applications. So there are 12 of them. The reason that independent commissioners are required for them fall into two categories. Most of them are district council applications, so the likes of Parks Department applying for a resource consent for their works, and there's potential for a perceived conflict of interest in those cases, hence the recommendation for an independent decision maker. And the other ones are potentially notified applications where an independent decision maker is required. So that's the purpose of the paper. Two important things to note in terms of the approach that we've taken. So first of all, we've cast the net quite wide in terms of future applications. We've turned our mind to all likely applications that are going to be coming in that we're potentially aware of, just so that for efficiency's sake, we don't have to come back to you anytime soon, hopefully, on this front. So that's why there are quite a few of them, because we've cast the net quite wide into the future for efficiency's sake. Also, just to keep things flexible, the approach that we're proposing is that any of the 12 applications that we've put forward could be heard by any of the 3 commissioners that we've recommended. So that's to keep things flexible and also efficient, so we don't have to come to you for changes, so that the consents can be allocated based on the availability of the commissioners and their expertise. So both of those things, we're hoping to achieve efficiencies in those respects. So the commissioners are Ellen Withy, who you'll be familiar with, I believe, Rob van Westhuizen, and the last one is Amanda de Jong. As you mentioned, there's an error to be corrected on item 10 of the paper. So that was my bad, I'm sorry. I did a copy and paste error there. So the applicant for that particular application should be Western Bay of Plenty District Council, not Yvonne and Kevin, and the location should be 109 Clark Road, not 109 Oliver Road. So I'm very sorry about that. So that should be corrected for the record. Another important thing to note is we've specified here that a number of the applications could be limited or fully notified. It's important to clarify we haven't predetermined that. We're simply putting them on the list in case they go down that route. So there is every possibility that they won't proceed on a notified basis, but we just want to cover that base in case they are. Likewise, we haven't predetermined that a hearing will be required, so there's a possibility that they will be notified, but no one wants to attend, so no hearing. So I just wanted to clarify that point as well. Given that there are quite a few consents on the list, my hope was that I could just take it as read, maybe hand it over to you for any points of clarification or discussion in terms of what we put forward. And I'm not sure, Natasha, if there's anything else you'd like to add that I've maybe missed.
No, you've covered everything. Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thank you for that. Firstly, then, do we have any questions or anything you want to clarify? And yes, James.
Thank you. Two questions. And firstly, Rod, can I ask you to speak up a wee bit more? It's a little bit hard to hear.
Perhaps pull the
Sorry about that.
microphone a little closer.
So two questions. Firstly, on one of the commissioners, Amanda de Jong, it said that she qualified for making good decisions in 2022. Is that renewal, or was that when she first qualified?
No, that's renewal.
Renewal,
That's
okay.
renewal.
I assumed it was, but the wording wasn't entirely clear on that. And secondly, on number 8, it wasn't quite clear to me why that was going to commissioners rather than be heard by a member of our committee. Because it's not it didn't seem overly complex, and it wasn't an application from our council.
Sasha, is this one of the additional ones that were put onto the list?
Yeah, this is one of those situations that Rob was describing where we think this is the pathway that this resource consent is likely to go down, limited notified. So in that case, we do need an independent commissioner for it. It is a very straightforward application, but there is an affected party that we need written approval is required from, and that party at this point is not willing to provide that, does not want to provide that written approval. So we're looking at a limited notified, potentially process, potentially a hearing. So an independent commissioner is needed. So we're not sure yet, but we're just preparing for that potential.
So can you clarify why limited notification hearing requires a commissioner? I might be a bit rusty on this, but can you explain why that is?
Generally, where a hearing is required, we use a independent commissioner or panel for those decisions. So limited notified is where there is one party that is affected, they haven't given sign off, and this presumes that this person wants to participate in a hearing. So yeah, that's the process.
We don't normally get involved in that unless there's a hearing, is my understanding.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's generally considered
So I
best
guess the
practice.
question that flows from that is that given the uncertainty around the application at this stage, if the opportunity was that it didn't need an independent commissioner, we're not forced to go down that route because we've approved this.
That's correct, yeah.
Correct.
So if it's
Yeah.
not notified, it
Correct.
wouldn't go to a hearing, wouldn't go to an independent, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Granger?
Yes, but isn't the issue that if the decision is made by council staff that it's a limited notification and then council hear it, there's a perception of bias
Now,
rather than it's open
This luckily is not one of those cases. So that situation applies where council is the applicant. So a few of these, it's the likes of Council Parks Department applying to council for consent. So those cases are slightly different. Fortunately, that's not the case here because it's a private party applying for a subdivision. So there wouldn't, fortunately, be that perceived conflict in this case. So it's a private party applying to council. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Murray Benj.
As I read all these applications, I thought to myself, I wonder why I actually went through the challenge of becoming a commissioner and renewing it. And so you sort of feel as though you were just wasted here, sitting here. And so I'm sympathetic with what Councillor, the Mayor is saying. But also I'd like to comment on one application. And you can call this a conflict of interest because I know the site, I know the people involved, and that is this question of productive land and how it's holding back development within our area. Can you just, is there any move from central government to change that?
So there has been talk of the government reviewing the NPS for highly productive land. So they've publicised that, and they've essentially said that they're going to be reviewing it. We don't know much more at this point. We're essentially just going to have to wait and see exactly what form that could take. But the intention is to free things up because as far as they're concerned, there have been unintended consequences in terms of stifling of productive capacity. So that has flowed through to some of the advice that we're giving to the likes of applicants. And so at the moment, there's a very tough test to meet. Currently, the NPS for HPL uses the word avoid in terms of some of its key policies, and case law dictates that it's a very tough test to meet. So it is stifling development in some cases. So a wait and see approach is what's being adopted by most parties at the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further, or there's another question?
Was the only other one is the other correction on item 4, where the word independent is missing.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sorry, could you repeat that point again? Sorry.
The last paragraph in item 4, it just says a hearings panel. It doesn't say an independent hearings panel.
Is that the resource consent for Paparoa Road, that item? And the last paragraph.
Carry on hold. Staff consider a plat to do. Okay, again, so yeah, hearings panel or a single commissioner, depending on what the case allows. So I can be happy to correct that for the
Yes,
record.
but it hasn't got the word independent.
Okay, all right, noted. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've covered the questions. Do we have a mover and a seconder then? Councillor Murray Benj, Councillor Granger. Is any? Yeah,
With
yes,
the appropriate corrections.
sure. Is there anyone wishes to speak to the motion?
Just to say that I think we're starting to really get through the work, and I think that's really helpful for the wider community. Very pleased.
Okay, in that case, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So with that, I can now declare the meeting closed. Thank you all.